Hey guys, what is up? Today I am bringing you some videos. It's mostly about me tryharding and trying to get better. It's kind of a continuing theme, me trying to get better at the game. The context today, though, is fishing. This is a bit of a mini montage here for about the next minute or so here, just to open up the video to show you. This is really what I've been working on lately. Standard fisherman setup with the Lothric Knight Shield and the rapier. I make an adjustment after a bit of doing this where I actually switch to the greatsword. The rapier works really well. You get some insane grabs with it, but it really telegraphs your intent. And so if you use the greatsword, people don't see the fishes coming as much. And the other nice thing is you don't have to block or guard or anything to avoid the left my kids at Walmart animation. You can pivot on a dime even without having to guard or anything. Plus, when people go to parry, if they whiff a parry, the greatsword R1s hurt a hell of a lot more than just like a standard straight sword or a rapier or a dagger or anything. So it's kind of better suited for an all-around balance game. Something I've been working at off and on for a while, NAMF has been really instrumental in staying on me and keeping me motivated to get good. And the cool thing is that my fishing has evolved to a point now where it's sufficiently good that even though I'm not landing them all the time, it's enough to keep me in the fight. And so I don't feel like I'm just going out and losing a bunch of invasions because I'm trying to learn how to fish. And so that's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed that. And it's been really satisfying to be improving all the time. Hopefully you see some improvement here. Obviously this is a montage, so it's always kind of like almost like a greatest hits, and it's never like as representative of the real invasions. Like this one in particular, I was pretty proud of. This was just some random solo host, so I just let him heal because this is my twink character, so I want to try to give him some advantages. But I'm able to get a roll back stab against his weapon art, and he hit R1 immediately after, and so the timing there very tight. So I was pretty pleased I was able to get away with that. This guy is just rolling into me constantly, so I'm baiting him to roll into me so that I can punish it with backstabs. This is something else that I've gotten a lot better at, where I can get those now pretty reliably. So I've had a number of questions recently about why I play so much at low level. This right here shows you one of the reasons why. This is pretty much all the time on PC at low level. It's always this busy, and it's always a bit of a shock when I go to PS4 and I see how much slower it is. So I wanted to kind of showcase a number of fights that I had recently, and I think kind of the unifying feature of all these fights is I'm trying to fish pretty aggressively. I'm not trying to fish obviously to the exclusion of anything else, like all criticals or anything like that, but I'm definitely constantly looking for fishing opportunities more than I might look for in a normal fight, just because I'm trying to improve. So I'm going for pivots more often, and there you can see I would have landed that for sure. Like, he totally left his back open, but I just screwed it up. This is a weapon, the Mad King Crucifix, that historically I have not done well at, so this is good practice for me, and there I get really lucky to get away with that. And there's no reason for me to guard like that. As you can see, you can pivot just fine, even though truthfully a lot of times my pivots look more like run backstabs. And here I do something kind of silly. I should not be using the charged R2 with him that close, because he ends up right at my back, and so I have to kind of panic roll or anticipatory roll to avoid getting backstabbed, and as a consequence I end up getting roll caught. But I mentioned, that my pivots look more like run backstabs, and that's kind of because they are. I'm still really working to get like the true pivot animation. It's still very much a work in progress. The better I get at this, the more respect I have for people that are really good at it, because it does take a long time to get skilled at it. So this here was a fight club that I invaded. This other red had been doing pretty well against some of the other invaders in blues, and he and I had been kind of splitting duty between everyone that was coming into the world. So I wanted to fight this guy since he was being so successful and kind of test myself against him. Obviously, I'm pretty worried about that parry shield. He's already parried a bunch of other people. He's got the flamberge with the lightning bundles, so I decided to match him with the lightning bundles. but I'm trying to stay aggressive. I've talked about this before, the importance of being aggressive against parry spammers to make sure that when they parry, they get punished. When you're passive, they never pay the price for just throwing parries out, so they can just keep throwing them out, and I want them to have to think about that and think about the consequences of throwing them out too often. I'm also kind of trying to mix up, rather than just always trying to punish with parries, with backstabs, trying to punish them with just standard R1s. And here I take advantage of the fact that he thinks I'm going to swing twice, and he goes for the parry, and I'm able to punish him. But that was probably poor form on his part, because I had been pretty disciplined about throwing R1s out, and he should have known that unless I hit confirm the first one, I wasn't going to just keep throwing them out there, at least not without staggering them. So this red here, actually, I got summoned into a world as a blue to fight him, and he killed the host pretty quickly before I even really got a chance to get involved. So I threw on the dried fingers to see if I could get invaded by him. And this is annoying. Watch this. This is not a panic roll. This is actually a buffered roll. So if you try to roll right before you get hit and you don't have time to roll, it'll sometimes buffer the roll, and then it makes you panic roll afterwards. But I can actually use that to my advantage. And you'll see here in a little bit, I actually get a parry when he goes for a roll catch. And I didn't swing quickly enough there after the kick. I gotta be quicker about that. Once I kick, I gotta immediately start swinging. There's a little bit of latency, so unfortunately I didn't get that backstab punish there. This guy is obviously throwing out tons of parries. He's got laps, I believe, or he's got some sort of heavy armor on, and there's the roll catch attempt that I punish with a parry. So he starts to make some adjustments here. I'm really trying to cut down on that panic rolling, but when somebody's got a really fast weapon like a straight sword, or he switches to the dark hand here in a minute, it can be really hard to do. And I get him caught up here. He starts panicking a little bit, caught in the doorway, and I'm able to get some really good punishes. And there I was really expecting him to try to parry. And so you can see here, he's really now mixing up his timing. He realizes I'm more of a threat than he first realized. Now, I'd actually gotten quite a bit of feedback on some of my earlier videos, and there that actually looked like he was going to try to punish what he thought I was going to do. He thought I was going to parry, and that jumping attack also indicates that he's expecting me to try to parry. And he gets his first one against me. The riposte doesn't do any damage, which I can't figure out. He's got the Hornet Ring on. I have no idea why his riposte were doing so little damage. But people have been talking to me about playing Unlocked more, and with like the curved sword, it doesn't work out that well. But here I start experimenting with playing Unlocked more, and you can see he just keeps spamming parry, and I'm just Unlocked, just tearing into him. Now, of course, because I'm not facing him directly, the range of my weapon is greatly reduced, and so I'm kind of trying to learn on how to manage that. And I didn't know he was going to parry there. That was more, I saw the roll in, and I pivoted around him to punish the backstab. And there I see he does a running R1 into standing R1, so I kind of file that away because I'm going to try to use that here in a little bit. Players like this are kind of funny because when he first invaded me, he immediately started buffing up. He's got all late game rings on, pretty nasty armor set up. It's just surprising to me that against, I must have looked like a noob from afar that he would go so try hard against me, but I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. And actually, kind of a funny story here is that this is actually on my alt character. This isn't even on my main. I've switched over to an alt character because I've greatly suspected that players are blocking me, and I've actually had some confirmation of that, but I'll talk more about that in an upcoming clip. It's funny playing Unlocked against a player that spams parry as much as this guy does has actually turned out to be a pretty useful strategy, although it's not without its downfalls, as you'll see here in a moment. There is one. Obviously, because I kind of twisted my body around to try to swing at him, I left my back wide open to him, and he was able to get in there and punish me. Again, I can't figure out why he's doing so little damage to me with that buff on his weapon. It's just I'm really confused by that. My PC kind of glitches out here for a moment. So unlock play, he was able to backstab me, and you'll see here in just a moment something else that kind of goes wrong. And here he's switching over to the rope fire bombs, which is actually a really good strategy. And in fact, I've started using them myself just in the last couple days. So you'll probably see those in an upcoming video, but I don't really have any gameplay of it to show you now. So unfortunately, even though I was unlocked here, because I turned my body to face him as he moved, I turned too directly to him and was able to get parried. So it's just something I got to be more conscious of when they're moving around, making sure that I'm not facing them too directly. I need to like purposely turn away from them when they do that. Like even there, I was probably facing him too directly. And there, the running R1 into standing R1. He's too late and really for me to probably parry that. And here I'm obviously able to punish some of his predictability with his parries. He's just throwing out so many of them at this point. Same problem, facing him too directly. Even though I was unlocked, he was able to get the parry. It's funny, I used to feel real badly whenever I'd get parried, but playing at low levels has cured me of that problem because it just happens so frequently because players throw them out so relentlessly. It doesn't even really faze me anymore. Unless I feel like I really did something stupid and predictable, then I'll be a little upset with myself. But just being parried in general, it doesn't bother me like it used to. And you see, I'm still kicking at him on wake up, even though he's made the adjustment. He's immediately rolling on wake up. And there, I turned the R2 away because I was worried he was going to go for the parry. And it's a good thing I did because he probably would have gotten that. I was really expecting, I'm switching to the spear here because I'm expecting him to run away and try to black crystal. Players like this at low level, they're really twinked out. That's almost always the MO, is they will black crystal out at the end of a fight rather than actually suffering the indignity of a loss. So I mentioned earlier that I suspect that some players are blocking me, especially these guys that host in the woods, and they're always twinked. So they've got a 30% health advantage. When I spank these guys, sometimes I've suspected that they block me because suddenly I won't see them in the woods anymore. Of course, you never really know if they blocked you or if maybe they just stopped playing there or something else, which is why it's been really interesting because I'm now playing with an alternate character and I'm re-invading all these same players that I remember having spanked long ago. So there are definitely a lot of players here who stack all these advantages for themselves, and even when those advantages aren't quite enough to protect them from losses, then they'll just block the players that are better than them so they never have to lose, which is kind of funny. So you can see I've been using the kick flips to avoid this guy's parries, and I love using those. The only problem is on occasion you'll screw up the kick and you'll do an R1 instead, and I have gotten parried once or twice like that. I've been playing pretty well. Unfortunately, he procs Frostbite. I probably should have been attending to the build-up of Frostbite better. This is my twink character, so I do have some of the I forget what they're called, like the rime moss or whatever, to treat that. But you can tell this guy's treating this fight pretty seriously because he switched over to the regen shield and he's going to go into really passive mode right now. He's been playing fairly passively to begin with. He hasn't really been initiating at all. And right there, if I would have pump faked with an L1 before I swung, that probably would have ended the fight. But unfortunately, I didn't think to do that at the time. But here I'm realizing how passive he is. That's why I started using bundles so that if he does shield, I'll get some bleed through his shield. But again, playing very passively. And now that it's clear he's not going to win, now he abandons all pretenses of the duel and comes in immediately to make sure that I can't Estus in turn. And well, you'll see here what happens. Unfortunately, I see what he's doing. I'm trying to mash, but we end up trading. I get frostbitten and die. And I mean, like, really, come on, dude. So when I see salt like that, or rather when I see a point down like that, to me that's salt. That's I thought I was really good. You showed me that I wasn't quite as good as I thought I was, and therefore I'm pissed. So this is, I think, the last clip here. I invade these two guys. And I thought at first they were just kind of hosting, not necessarily ganking. This guy, unfortunately, he's got the Onyx Blade, which for some reason, I have trouble spacing this weapon out. I mean, I know it's got a longer reach than some of the other great swords, but I should be able to correct for that. And for whatever reason, I don't do a good job of correcting for that. So trying to space out this guy's R1s, and I stupidly panic roll there. But trying to space out his R1s is pretty challenging, and not specifically him, but just the Onyx Blade in general is something that I've had trouble with. So I'm pretty proud of this right here, because what happens is he does the rolling attack, and I know he's going to go for the standing R1 out of stun, and so I'm able to roll it a little bit early and get to his back. And then I end up trading, so it's not like a really smooth backstab, but I think that's also a testament to kind of how my skills have improved. I probably would not have been able to get that just even a couple weeks ago, and I would have finished him off right there, but unfortunately, because his back was to me, I ended up getting the whiffed grab, and he's able to live another day. And so now both these guys are going to come charging in after me. And I ate 3 R1s from the crow quills there because actually I was paying too much attention to the guy with the greatsword because I did not want to eat a greatsword R1 combo. I've also started using the crossbow a lot more lately. I've gotten a lot of feedback in the comments about using that, and so I've been playing around with that more often, and I've been using that to pretty good effect. I don't like to break it out against solo opponents very often, but especially in groups like this, I like to bring it out. And so they're going to do the classic 2v1 thing, which is just hang back and make me come in. And then as soon as I engage one, the other guy's going to go and punish me. And watch what the guy on the right does here. He switches over to the claw, like never seen that before, and throws a bomb. And I assume that was supposed to be a Barker bomb bait. And I'm sure these guys are on chat together because they probably both simultaneously said, oh, let's parry him. So they both immediately break out their parry tools, and they're both going for sick parries, which unfortunately for them do not work. And so these are salty point downs. This is not you suck, dude. I mean, that's what they think in their heads, but in reality, they're just pissed because their little tactics aren't working against me. So I give them a bit of the cheeky repair powder in return. And I see now I've got other invaders here to help me. And so I figure I'm going to be chasing these guys around. So I get rid of the curved sword because I know I mentioned this before, but curved swords absolutely blow at chasing people down. I mean, it's a great weapon, but that's like really it's one of its big weaknesses is not good at chasing people down. Thanks, Watchdog. And especially the Gru one is just too small. There's no range to it at all. So I'm really wary of this guy getting a lucky Cestus parry, so I'm playing pretty cautiously here. And that was actually a backstab attempt. I'm able to finish him off, and now it's a 3v1. So at this point, I'm kind of assuming this guy's going to disconnect, so I decide to go ahead and get my, my dung pies ready. Watchdogs will be watchdogs, and he plummets to his death. And I see the other red here has got the crossbow out, so he clearly has some experience. He knows what's going on. The host is going to hang out here on the ladder. So here I decide I'm going to go ahead and go the rope firebomb strat. If you haven't seen the video, you can actually hit people on the ladder here with rope firebombs, which is pretty awesome. And once you aim them correctly, you can just start spamming them because you won't move or anything, and you can just rain hellfire down on them, and people are not expecting that. So this guy is pretty well fucked at this point. I'm really expecting a disconnect. But here I just go ahead and put him in some roll catch hell. And that is all she wrote. Guys, thanks for checking in today. Take care now.